One person from your audience also asked, "Do keywords still matter in an AI SEO world?" And I really liked your answer because you came back to a lot of these concepts that we touched on, like co-citation, entities, vectorization, and just the relationship between different entities. I was wondering, can you go a bit deeper into that? Can you elaborate on that?
I think if you understand the models that Google uses that they've publicly stated, you can start to tease out what is important to how they think about particularly text. One of the greatest misses I see in SEO is people not going to Google's academic publications page and reading their publications. There are hundreds of these things every year, and it pretty clearly tells you the direction that they're researching. Even if the research isn't in the product yet, it gives you a sense, oh, this is what they're thinking about. When they announced, for example, that for processing queries last year, they were starting to use their BERT model, the bidirectional encoding representation transformers. The first thing people are like, oh, well, that doesn't matter to SEO because they're using it to just understand the context of the query. I'm like, well, it's a two-sided coin. Yes, you use BERT to understand the context of the query, but by definition, you kind of should run the same thing on your corpus so that you can do pairwise matching, which is something that Google says they do. It's like, okay, so BERT does matter for understanding and taking apart entities and context, prepositions, etc., on both the query side and on the result side. So why would you not take your content and run it through any of these transformers and understand what it is that they would see in your text? And so you should be analyzing your text for entity detection. Like, are there entities that are logical that should be in your content? At the end of the day, like you said earlier, when we're talking about behaviors and stuff, Google is fundamentally capturing and replicating human behavior, right? So the old advice from 20 years ago is still valid. Write for humans, right? Write as if there was no Google, so that people would say, wow, that was really good. I want to refer this to my friends. Because as Google's natural language processing technologies evolve, and the way they're doing their matching evolves, it's looking more and more like the kinds of things you would recommend to a friend anyway. Because again, they're copying our behaviors. That means if you don't have access to the state-of-the-art models, you can start to at least play with some of them. One of the greatest gifts Google has given us is Google Colab, which, if you're unfamiliar with it, is their machine learning laboratory. You can sign up for a free account, and you get a 4-hour working session. You can start a new one anytime, but after 4 hours, it times out and shuts down to save resources. And you can load up with their hardware, like Tesla K80s, GPUs and stuff. And you can run code in this environment, and you can load up things like the T5 transform, which is one of their big transform models. You load in your text and say, do some analysis with this, do some testing with this. One of the great techniques that their T5 transformer does is abstractive summarization. So put in, say, your blog post and say, transformer, read this, process it, and give me a 3-sentence summary of what you think this piece of text is about. And it will spit that out. Sometimes it comes out with salad, but sometimes it comes out with a really good summary. Well, guess what? If the T5 transformer in Google's environment, which is a Google-based transformer, spits this out as an abstractive summary of what it thinks your piece of text is about, what do you think that same transformer is doing for search results? Right? It's trying to understand, what is this piece of text about, and does it match these queries? By the way, if you want to, that's a fun tip if you're doing meta descriptions or even just social media posts. Stick through an abstractive summarization tool and get a 2 or 3 sentence summary. Those short summaries are so good. They go off the rails once you get beyond 1,500 characters, 1,500 words. But 2 or 3 sentences, they just nail it.